Hey everybody, I'm Karia Coleman with Terry Health, and today we're going to jump into the bedroom truth. Black Men's Health Uncovered. We have a special guest, Dr. Adam Murphy, who is Northwestern University Medical Center's very own board certified urologist, and he's a medical researcher that focuses on men's sexual reproductive health, prostate cancer, and disparities that affect men of the African diaspora. So let's get into it.
All right. Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? We got us. This is Karia Coleman with Terry Health, and we have a special guest today, Dr. Adam Murphy. Dr. Adam Murphy is one of Northwestern University Hospital's faculty for the medical school, and he's a board certified urologist and researcher. Dr. Adam, welcome. Uh,
Thank
as we get
you.
started, can you just give us an idea, a little bit of like what got you into urology? Because my understanding is it wasn't the initial path. It was medicine, but not necessarily urology. You can give us a little bit about how you got to where you're at today.
Uh, it's funny. I thank you for asking that question and thank you for having me on the show. I would say that my path to urology was kind of weird because I thought I was going to do primary care,
Mm-hmm.
and I just got encouraged by several people not to do primary care while I was in medical school because one, there was underrepresentation of blacks in subspecialty medicine. And two, I had gone to an expensive medical school and business school. They were suggesting that I should do something in subspecialty medicine. And I was set to do orthopedic surgery because I thought I liked the people a lot and enjoyed my rotation. But then realized I would fall asleep when looking at x-rays of bones in the conferences. And I'm like, I don't actually care about the angle of angulation for the fracture. I don't.
Right.
And I saw them pull out this big hammer to hammer in a hip replacement kind of into the femur, and it was bloody, and it felt like I was at a carpentry school, and I just was like, I can't do this. And so I went to business school and to make a decision, and one of my friends was lucky enough to have been a urology um, fourth year, and just a year ahead of me in med school, and told me I was a natural urologist. And he thought that I had the ability to kind of connect with people and talk about awkward subjects pretty fast and comfortably.
Yeah.
And I did a rotation and loved it. So I hope that skill that I have translates into today where I can talk about all kinds of fun stuff and not make it awkward and weird.
Well, you know that awkward, hard conversation is needed, and like you said, it was underrepresentation in urology, which also lines up with the um, the hard conversation like we having today about black men's health because we don't talk about it. Women talk about it all the time. We you have to wait till something's falling off or hanging off before we go to the hospital, but especially when it comes to male sexual reproductive health. And that's one of the conversations that a lot of my clients as well as friends even struggle to talk about. And when it does come out, it's um it's a very vulnerable conversation. It's embarrassing both and vulnerable. And you also do, I know that you do a lot of community outreach as well. You do it in the Chicagoland area, but you also do it for also for the university as well, don't
Yeah, I am the Assistant Director of Community Outreach and Engagement
you? Mm-hmm.
for the Lurie Cancer Center at Northwestern University. And I do that similar role for we have a specialized program of research excellence in prostate cancer called the SPORE. I help with their kind of community outreach, working with their advocates uh, who are men who have prostate cancer and are survivors and are trying to be advocates within the prostate cancer research space for kind of the work we do and how we translate that to real human beings.
Got you. You know, Dr. Murphy, so as we get started, I believe that part of the embarrassment and the shyness so to approach this conversation comes with a lack of information. And we understand the body, but when you talk to someone who doesn't understand their own body, they might not understand like what's going on or why it's going on, and therefore might have a problem talking about it. So can you just give us like a little synopsis of what the actual what constitutes the male sexual reproductive anatomy?
Okay,
There's a lot going on down
should I, can you let me share the screen? I'll give you a little video.
there. Yes.
Okay, this may help us, for the people who are watching, this may help us. This is from chicagopelvic.com, but basically, the prostate, the seminal vesicles, the penis, and the testicles kind of make up the male sexual or genital system. It's called the reproductive system. But we have to include the brain and even sometimes the other hormone producing glands like the adrenal gland and even nerves, right? So that we can get erections, so that we can have ejaculations and orgasms. All those have to be firing. So it's not just the actual structures we see on the screen, but so just quick function, the testicles make sperm and testosterone. And they deliver sperm after they mature in this epididymis through something called the vas deferens into the back of the prostate, so that when it comes time to have an orgasm, the prostate will shoot semen from the seminal vesicles here, prostate fluid from the prostate here, into these ducts called the ejaculatory duct, and then eventually into the urethra, the tube that we urinate through and ejaculate through.
Okay.
And so after that prostate squeezes that fluid out, your pelvic floor muscles, one of them is envisioned here, is going to rhythmically contract. One's called the ischiocavernosus, one's called the bulbospongiosus. They're underneath the base of the penis, and they basically kind of force semen out of the penis through this rhythmic contraction. So we tend to think of the penis as is a sexual organ and a urinary organ because it does both functions. So in the bottom, the urethra is what expels or shoots out the semen. But at the top, the erectile tissue is there. That erectile tissue is called the corpus cavernosum, and it's basically got it's two paired structures, one on the left and one on the right side of the penis, and they share little connections between the left and right sides, or a septum, a wall that has perforations in it or holes. And so you have arteries on both sides of the penis, and then you have a spongy network of veins that allow the blood to return back to the heart. But because blood pressure comes in to the arteries in higher pressure than it does the veins get collapsed under the weight of the pressure of the artery bringing in this new blood. And then you also have these smooth muscle cells that surround the veins and squeeze them closed so that the erection is forced to stay, uh, the blood is forced to stay in and the erection is forced to be maintained through the artery bringing in blood because you're sexually excited, and the veins being compressed or squeezed by smooth muscles to keep the blood in the penis. So that's what really makes erections. Um, and we also realize that the prostate is a dam for urine flow.
Yeah.
And the bladder is here, and it's supposed to hold urine under low pressure. And then when it's ready to be released, when the bladder gets full, we're in a safe space to urinate. It squeezes, and then it goes through the prostatic urethra, the same tube that delivers semen, and then out the urethra of the penis, just like it did for the semen, it does it for the urine. The tube to transmit. And so the penis, the prostate are both sexual and urinary structures. And they are damaged by things that damage blood flow and nerve function, like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So that's where they are.
Okay, so while we have this this picture up, Dr. Murphy. Uh, some of the guys out there have either had a vasectomy or they're thinking about it. If you can just show them so they know what's going on real quick, because you covered the vast difference. If you can just just go over like where it is and like I think we talked about how sometimes you may not have 100%.
Yeah.
So if you could cover that real quick while we have this picture up.
So men have to transmit the sperm, the cells that carry the man's DNA or genetics,
Mm-hmm.
to the inside of the vagina that will ultimately be swimming on a marathon to the egg, right?
Right, right.
The woman's body, uh, and for reproductive purposes. Um, the testicles here in the scrotum, and it has to be maintained at 34 degrees, right?
Yep.
Celsius, cooler than the outside. So I wanted to remind us that we have to keep our testicles cooler by not being in a lot of hot tubs and wearing tight underwear and saunas, because they are designed with their enzymes that catalyze the formation of all these new sperm. They've got to be at the right temperature, like our chemistry experiments did in high school and college.
Right, right.
So the sperm is here, 34 degrees, and then they mature and gain the capacity to swim in this epididymis, this little sac on top of the sperm that is connected to the testicle by little tubes. And
Yep.
then the vas deferens is what carries the sperm from the epididymis in steady flows to the prostate, millions a day, right?
Yep.
And so in order to in that process, if you did want to have a baby because you and your partner want to get a vasectomy, you have no desire to have kids anymore, guys can go to the office in a simple procedure that lasts about half an hour or shorter, in expert hands. They can get a little incision on the left and right side of their scrotum or right in the middle, and the urologist will fish out this vas deferens tube,
Mhm.
cut it on both ends, so you have a little gap of vas deferens you remove,
Okay.
and they'll tie or clip, put little clamping clips on both ends, and then separate them, oftentimes by a layer of tissue called fascia.
Gotcha.
And so that means they're in two different planes of existence. They've been clipped, tied, and most urologists will burn the tips with cautery of electrical energy to burn both openings.
Yep.
And still, there's a 2% failure rate with that, where nature,
Okay.
the universe, God, have programmed in our sperm and bodies to reproduce so much that despite all these ways to prevent it, sometimes the sperm from the testicles, which are made every day, even after the vasectomy, will power through the closure that we've done and make a new path into the vas deferens up here. And then some people will still have kids even 5, 10 years after a vasectomy, because nature decides it's gonna find a way. Kind of like they said in Jurassic Park, in that movie. Anyway, long story short, um, the vas deferences should become the left and the right, and you should be able to fill a gap in the tissue to know that it's separated at the end of the surgery.
Gotcha. So, Dr. Murphy, one of your areas of research, and this concerns a lot of men, especially at our age, because we're not 18 no more, is the whole thing with prostate cancer. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of awareness now. I know you do uh, many talks. You travel all around and do various talks about men's health and prostate cancer, and some of the disparities between men of the African diaspora. Can we for those who are concerned now, we 45, 50, 55 years old, who are starting to be concerned about like the prostate cancer, what's going on with the prostate, like how, like what's going on with it, and how to either prevent it or maintain our health when it comes to prostate cancer.
Okay, so prostate cancer second most common cancer death in men. Second most common cancer in men after skin cancer. But if you're going to get prostate cancer, it's only 1 in 6 people will die of prostate cancer if they have it. It's very, very common, but it's not very lethal. So that's what makes it really important to screen for it. You screen for it by the blood test PSA, because if you detect it early, the 97% cure rate that it has in 10 years is amazing. But if you detect it late, that cure rate for 5 years is only about 25%, 35%. And if it's metastatic, the average life expectancy is about 5 years. So it pays a lot to detect prostate cancer early. That's the importance of screening with the PSA test. If you have an abnormality in your PSA, you should get a rectal exam done, especially if you're a Black male, because I have a paper from 2018 in Urologic Oncology Journal that says that if your rectal exam, the prostate exam that the doctor does with the finger in the rectum, it doubles a Black man's rate of having significant cancer, potentially lethal prostate cancer, doubles from 24 to 48% just by having an abnormality felt on that exam. So it will remind both the urologist and the patient to take this PSA level more seriously and go ahead and do a MRI and a biopsy.
Okay.
So it's PSA is the way you mainly screen. It's a blood test.
Yeah.
Should it be found to be elevated or abnormal for you, you should have the rectal exam done.
Now, quick question, because this is very important. It's personal to me because my dad had prostate cancer, but he had the prostate removed, and his oldest brother died from prostate cancer. So I know I got to get checked more often than that average person. But you're talking about PSA. There was about a little while back at one of your talks, I think it was might have been in Hyde Park area, where you was explaining to someone how PSA is actually a normal, is a protein, antigen, whatever. It's actually normal, so it has a normal function.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that we shouldn't have at all. But the levels is. Can you just touch on that real quickly?
Yeah. So the prostate delivers the sperm and the semen and this jelly matrix that the seminal vesicles here make. And that white creamy fluid is connected through almost like a jello type material called seminogellin. It's a gel made from the seminal vesicles. That's why they named it that.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to deliver a bunch of sperm at one time by sticking them together in this jelly and putting it inside the vagina. They get delivered millions, 250 million sperm, right, at one time. And so that gives you the shot of having a good kid despite the marathon. But PSA is, I call it meat tenderizer. PSA stands for prostate specific antigen. It just means that something that's mainly only made in the prostate. It's actually made in breast ducts as well, but only in the prostate in high levels. And it is a serine protease. It breaks down protein bonds.
Yeah.
And so if you let semen sit for 5 minutes, maybe 10, it'll become watery in that time period because PSA breaks down the gel and you get this watery fluid then that the sperm can be free to swim through the cervix and up the woman's, uterus to try and meet this egg in the fallopian tube.
Gotcha.
So PSA is a normal meat tenderizer. It's a normal active part of the body, and it's really necessary to join the semen right at the time of ejaculation so that you don't just get a bunch of sperm swimming in the guy's body, you get it swimming in the woman's body.
Gotcha.
And so when it gets to the cancer state, cancer has a habit of stealing food and blood supply from the neighbors and invading the space of the neighboring cells. That's what makes it a hallmark of cancer. Is it's invasive, it's greedy, um, and it tries to grow despite being the normal size already, right?
Right.
And so because it steals blood supply, those blood vessels tend to be leaky and allow more of the PSA that the prostate glands are producing to leak into the bloodstream. And that's how we are able to detect PSA in prostate cancer more readily in patients with cancer because the cancer is basically producing too much PSA into the bloodstream for its prostate size.
Okay, so let me just make sure I'm understanding this, and for those who are listening, PSA is good as long as it's in the
Prostate.
uh the the uh
And
the
the same,
coming out is mixed with the semen, but
yes.
when the blood vessels are damaged, it leaks into the bloodstream, and that's how the blood levels get high. Is that what I'm hearing?
The way that cancer makes new blood vessels, uh, they're not as watertight as normal blood vessels.
Okay,
So it's not they're not damaged, they're just not as good. They're leakier. They
got
leak
you,
more.
got you. Because I know
So yeah,
that's a trait with most cancers, the angiogenesis, where they create
correct.
new blood vessels. That's you know, it
Yeah.
didn't come from you doing cardio. It came from
Yeah.
it's
Secreting factors,
yeah,
angiogenesis factor.
got you, got you. Now so what would you? Okay, so I know that with a lot of chronic conditions and cancers, you start to see patients at younger ages than what was anticipated years ago. Like, what age would you recommend guys who haven't had who doesn't have a family history, or someone like myself who all the men on his father's side, meaning the siblings, father and his father's siblings, had cancer. What frequency would you recommend getting tested, or would you recommend just straight to the PSA test and say, hey, look, you know, this is a thing in the family. Let's, what would you recommend?
I would say that you're supposed to get a baseline PSA in your early 40s
Okay,
because it's very predictive of who needs to really screen closely, and those who don't. So if you're above median in your early 40s, basically your level's above zero point 0.7, you should be screening more regularly, even in your 40s, because you are more likely to have prostate cancer,
gotcha.
like 9 times more likely than the people who are below median.
Oh,
So your PSA is point 0.5, point 0.2, point 0.4. In your early 40s, you probably could hold off until 50 to start screening again. But if you're in your early 40s and you're already above median, you should probably screen a couple times in your 40s and then definitely be screening annually between the age 55 and we say 76 in urology,
mhm.
in the urology community. And then after age 76, it's a conversation with you and your doctors about your life expectancy. So if you're still got 10 years of life expectancy, you can continue to screen.
Gotcha.
Um, and we define that if you have one major medical condition or less, it's okay to continue. If you have multiple, the likelihood is you're going to die of something else, and it doesn't make sense to continue screening because prostate cancer is a slow-growing cancer with a 5-year doubling time. So,
Okay.
if you are 76 and you got diabetes, hypertension, and you had a stroke, you probably don't need to continue to screen.
Okay. So, Dr. Murphy, before we get into the subject that everybody really want to talk about that they're not going to ask about. One last thing I want to talk about with the cancer. You had some research where you guys studied cancer rates from like the homeland, Nigeria, West Africa. Was it West Africa versus Europe and the United States? And I think you had some statistics on men of the African diaspora as well as white men from these areas. Can you
Yeah,
real quick?
Yes, yeah. Thank you for asking that question. So, people ask me why do Black men in the U.S. have the highest rates of prostate cancer in the world, and we're actually number two to the people in the Nordic population, like Sweden, Norway, that kind of region,
Hmm.
because they have a really um, they have genetic isolation, and so they have genes that seem to increase their risk of prostate cancer. Um, for blacks, that Afro-Americans, African Americans, and Afro-Caribbeans have the highest rates of prostate cancer in the U.S. and second highest in the world. And everyone assumes that the rates are because we're from West Africa. And so when I was doing my work in West Africa, it was a very lethal cancer in West Africa, but not particularly common. And they had done several autopsy studies in the past, in the 70s, 80s, and early 2000s, that said that the rates were lower than the US, 6 to 11% at autopsy in these old studies. And we found it 48% to 64% in American whites and blacks
Hmm.
at autopsy. Not detected by PSA, but just at death, the family asked for an autopsy, and you see the rate of cancer in the prostate at autopsy.
Okay.
And it's a way to kind of see what the baseline rate is or what's going on, even when someone doesn't go to the doctor, kind of a situation.
Gotcha.
Taking screening out of the mix. So 48% of whites on average have prostate cancer when they're going through this autopsy. 64% of US blacks have this prostate cancer in the US. But we did a study and it was 6.7% of West Africans.
Hmm.
6.7.
Gotcha. Big
So
difference.
8 times less likely to happen. Um, so that means that blacks are having something happen. People with West African ancestry, genetically, are having something weird happen when they get to the US or the United Kingdom.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that it could be. It could be our diet. It could be the neighborhoods we live in are oftentimes places where factories are built, are places where expressways and highways are built, are places where landfills are placed, or um, you know, different EPA toxins are around. Environmental Protection Agency measure toxic levels are higher in our communities. Our food are different because of the way that food is distributed across the states, right? It goes to wealthy neighborhoods first, then it goes to more minority neighborhoods later.
I'm laughing because I remember in one of your talks, I was in the audience, and we gonna get to ED right after this, but you had mentioned how with one of the big organic food brands,
Yeah,
how they send their trucks. 'Cause I've worked in retail for a while, and when we get the trucks, sometimes you would know the schedule, and
yeah,
it makes me laugh because you said they go to certain neighborhoods on the north side and what's that Gold Coast, and then they come to their branches in the other neighborhoods, poor, black, white, and Hispanic. That's not as affluent.
yeah,
And I thought I didn't want to say the brand, but I know how it is with them trucks. You're like, wait, you're supposed to stop here first, and the managers get to pick. It's like when you buy puppies, you get pick of the litter.
yeah.
Like no, I want to give me that
Oh, I moved from Hyde Park, which I loved in the neighborhood,
one.
to Gold Coast after my divorce. And I was like, these strawberries look amazing. Look at the chicken wings. They don't look like the oversized, like hormone pump chicken wings you get.
Yep.
There wasn't strawberries that had fuzz growing on them,
Yeah.
right? And there's a study that shows that if you have organic food, it doesn't increase life expectancy unless you're in a good neighborhood.
Wow.
So even the benefit of having organic food is reduced because the food quality of organic food is lower when you get to a poorer neighborhood.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of reasons for the fact that blacks in America can be disadvantaged.
Yeah.
So we think of it as gene environment interactions.
Okay. So here we go, Dr. Murphy. Uh, I know when you mentioned that when guys come to your office, and we're just gonna take it home with this one because this is how they would do in your office. They will waste time talking about everything but ED, and at the end it comes up. So for those who need to know, can you you went over the anatomy and how it's supposed to function. Now with ED, can you just talk to us a little bit about one uh, the different types, why it's important to talk about it, and some of the things that we can do to either prevent or reverse it.
Okay, so prevent perverse. So erectile dysfunction has a lot of different causes,
Mm-hmm.
but basically it's the difficulty with achieving erection or maintaining erection long enough to have orgasm ejaculation. But we're really focused on ejaculation because we're thinking reproduction and kind of climax in the way we define it. So it's and getting an erection, initiating one, and then maintaining it. And so some people have just difficulties with maintaining. That's kind of early erectile dysfunction. They get an erection, they're excited, their testosterone are surging, their nerves are firing on all cylinders to their penis, and the blood flow is high. But once you kind of get into the act, and if things don't go smoothly, you get distracted, you get a little less excited, you get bored, the erection starts to wane, peter off, pun intended, and you um, get the softening of the erection during it, right? Some people can't finish. Sometimes that looks like premature ejaculation instead, where you have an orgasm within 2-3 minutes because the erections aren't as firm, and it's just a way that erectile dysfunction can also present itself. It can be that you're having very fast ejaculation, faster than you and your partner are happy with. 2 minutes is our definition of premature ejaculation, but a lot of times patients and their partners think 5-7 minutes is too short. The ejaculation to come very fast. It's called premature ejaculation. And we define it as less than 2 minutes in urology. Uh, and actually, most animals are happy to have an orgasm real fast. But we like to make it a blood sport. We want to brag about it.
Exactly.
And so some couples are saying that if it's less than 5 minutes, less than 7 minutes, less than 10, less than it used to be, then it's now premature.
Yeah.
And so guys become distressed about that. So that's early erectile dysfunction. And then later it could be that you can't even get it unless you're about to go to the bathroom and urinate, right? Like you have that full bladder, you wake up, and people have that morning erection from the um, full bladder kind of thing, which goes away as soon as you urinate. It's not helpful for sexual activity.
Right.
So that's the inability to achieve an erection. And it could be caused by hormones like testosterone or prolactin increases. It could be caused, so testosterone deficiency and prolactin excess. It could be caused by thyroid problems, uh, cortisol problems, like in Graves' disease, um, or Cushing disease, I'm sorry. It could be caused by stress. It could be caused by OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. It could be caused by general anxiety disorder or other kind of mental health conditions. Some people have germ phobias, right? And so they don't like the idea of being sexual with somebody else's germs. Some people feel anxious about how they look, their own penis size, length, body smell, appearance. All those things can get into your head and affect your ability to have a good erection. So erectile dysfunction is a complex thing, and it can be also damaged by nerves and diabetes.
Okay, so and I know you mentioned before that there's counselors specific for that when there's more of a mental uh, um, uh,
Health
issue
component. Yeah.
as opposed to the physical, which is what you mentioned diabetes. So uh, chronic conditions, because that's my area. So that's typically, like diabetes, high blood pressure, those all can affect it, right? Because I know I've talked to several people who, I'm meeting with them and they say they got diabetes, they got the medicine for diabetes, they got the high blood pressure, and we know the little blue pills are not too far behind. So, uh, so lifestyle is a big thing. So how? Okay, so my question, and my next question to you, Dr. Murphy, is we touched on a lot of we touched on a lot of things. And I know some guys that's watching will probably think, well, you know what? I want to, I want to reach out. I want to be able to, meet with Dr. Murphy. How can they like how can they reach out to you? To your office, to your, do you, you know, best way to find you, best way to have a meeting or do a screening if tell us how to do that.
Well, I mean, I think I feel bad that I didn't cover the preventive stuff. One of which is, you told me this, that you're doing diet and exercise with patients, and
Uh-huh.
that is how a third of patients will erectile dysfunction with eating better, with dropping 15% body weight, with getting more sleep. Um, we also check their testosterone, make sure that that's not deficient, and their hormones are all causes. There are reversible causes of erectile dysfunction. So diet, exercise, and weight loss is responsible for a third of it. And then there's hormone things that we can get corrected, maybe another 15%. And then for the people who have it from nerve damage or vascular damage, that isn't from like a trauma, but just normal aging stuff,
Hmm.
uh, we have the Viagra cousins, Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, Stendrol. And then now they have things that are on chewables online called Row and other things that are combinations, Blue
Okay.
Chew of Cialis and sildenafil, which is or tadalafil and sildenafil. So you can get kind of a hardness of the sildenafil and the long half-life of tadalafil, so you can kind of be ready for sexual activity for not just the first couple hours after you take a Viagra, but for even a half a day. So there are treatments that are still there, and there's also surgical treatments. I wanted to make sure. Some people need a penile prosthesis,
Okay.
insertable pump that you put inside the penis. That instead of having those uh, blood-filled tissues called the corporal cavernosa we showed in the picture, you replace that with cylinders. So instead of having this tissue here, you core out that blood flow, that bloody tissue, you
Hmm.
dilate it out of the way, and replace it with little kind of silicone or plastic cylinders that are shaped like the same tissue, and it can have sterile water pumped in from a pump you put next to the scrotum and a reservoir you put next to the bladder. A reservoir, a little balloon of water, will
Hmm.
be next to the bladder, and it'll pump water using the pump in the scrotum into the penis. And so you'll find that some older guys, especially if they have a younger partner, they have to continue to sexually please, they may get into erectile dysfunction and need some kind of help. So there's surgical corrections as well. And it's better to do it sooner rather than later, because if you stop using your penis, it starts to shrink and you get a smaller erection with the pump than you would if you were still fresh out with your tissues.
So you said if you stop using it, it shrinks. So is this the use it or lose it thing
Right?
that?
If you use it or lose it, yes.
So
Because
you have to. So fellas, y'all hear that? You have to.
blood flow,
You have to use it, ladies. He have to use it.
you have to use it.
This is not. This is coming from Doc.
Yes,
Said he
please
got to
don't
use
use
it,
it.
and this is not an excuse to run outside the house and go somewhere else. But you can stay at home and use it. So that's the thing, you have to, because I know you mentioned before that, when you don't have that morning erection stretching you out like it normally would, like when you was younger, you have to use it. You have to have more erections, basically.
Yeah, the erections bring in fresh oxygenated tissue, blood into the tissue. That is helpful for repair, recovery of those smooth muscle cells, continuing replacement of the collagen with healthy collagen,
Okay.
right? So that it gets damaged. Every time you have sex, you're having a little bit of trauma on the penis. It's got to repair itself. So that blood flow is helpful for that repair process.
Okay. Anything natural
That's what it's.
that you've seen in the literature that actually works? I know we mentioned a few you mentioned a few supplements before
There's
that's
some, yeah. So treatments that are a little bit less invasive. Yohimbe is a blood flow kind of drug that you can get over the counter and some supplements, and it actually is active in terms of opening up the arteries in the penis. Yohimbe, Yohimbe, or Yohimbine is a kind of drug name of it.
Mhm.
That does work. But the problem is that the formulation that you get in the gas station is not FDA regulated. And so the dosing in that, it could be whatever the company decides to put into the drug, their products. So it's not real well regulated. That's what kind of makes it a little dangerous.
Yeah.
People will say there are benefits with tiger nuts, this little root vegetable, tuber kind of thing that tastes like nutty. People think that helps. Tiger, there's another one that people use. Oh, it's called tiger nuts. That's what that one's called. But beetroot, supposed to improve with nitric oxide production and blood flow. What I've seen people talk about is watermelon rind. The edge of where the fruit and the watermelon rind meet, there's a natural, like Viagra-like substance.
The L-citrulline.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that is at the edge of the watermelon rind. There are a bunch of other things that are supposed to work, but have not been shown in clinical trials to work.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Um, so right now we have the penile injections. There's shockwave lithotripsy, where you not lithotripsy, shockwave, where you'll deliver ultrasound shocks and damage to the tissues and stimulate natural repair processes that helps a lot of men for at least 2 years regain some erectile function.
Now, is the
So there's a lot of
shockwave,
good.
quick question, Doc, is the shockwave supposed to like loosen up any like tough or hardened connective tissues? Because I know they have the ones in the medical offices, but then some products out here on the on the market. I'm pretty sure it's not at the same caliber as the machines they have in the medical offices, the medical devices.
Yeah, so the shockwave that you can get over the counter or online are kind of less powerful versions of the ones they have in the offices.
Yeah.
I think it's better to do it under the of a doctor because I think that you can do a lot more damage and cause a lot more scarring. What you get at the doctor's office is that they'll apply like a numbing, like lidocaine ointment, usually to the penis to numb it down and even to the over the scrotum a little bit. And they'll apply, I think, 3,000, 4,000 shocks along the shaft of the penis on the left and right, and even towards the origination of the penis, which is actually on those bones called the ischial tuberosities between the legs. So they'll go down some between the legs to try to get all of that tissue disrupted. And it's supposed to do damage to the blood vessels and smooth muscle cells and get them to repair the smooth muscle cells. Because I think the most common cause is venous leak, where the smooth muscles are not squeezing the veins closed during erections. So you lose blood even though you're excited. So by getting them damaged, they secrete natural growth factors to rescue themselves, and you get healthier, smooth muscles at the end of the shock wave is the idea.
So it's like mimicking an actual workout before the penis, where you break down the muscle and then it
Yeah,
repairs itself over time. But this is smooth muscle, not
yeah,
skeletal
that's
muscle,
right.
but it's muscle nonetheless. Yeah. Okay.
So where can they find me, you asked me? I am at A-Murphy2 at northwestern.edu for questions or to come out and do talks, A-Murphy2. Uh, for medical questions and real concerns, I have a clinical number at Northwestern. It's 312-695-8146. That's 312-695-8146. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. There are people there to take your call. I'm still open for patients. We take Medicare and Medicaid too, and most insurances. Great people in urology in the city all over the place. We're very lucky to have University of Chicago, Rush, University of Illinois, uh, Chicago Med, all kinds of good people to go see. But I'm one of many,
Yeah. So don't hesitate to go get checked out.
and I'm happy to see people.
All right, Dr. Adam Murphy. Thank
Please.
you, sir.
All right. Thank you.